Today, we are going to talk about what it actually means to remember who you truly are without becoming someone new. Welcome to And She Remembers, the podcast where women reconnect with their intuition, reclaim their power, and remember who they truly are. I'm your host, Sarah Manning, modern day oracle and spiritual intuition coach. The past two episodes you've listened to were about waking you up, reminding you of the power you have at your fingertips and helping you understand the difference between the woman you pretend to be and the powerful woman hidden underneath the layers of society's roles and labels. Firstly, I want to remind you of something really important. You are not just a human being who is born to work, survive, and eventually die. You are here to live a life you love, a life that brings you joy, a life that is lived, a life that is lived on your terms. You are a spiritual, creative being that can have it all, do it all, and be it all on your terms. Let's be honest, though, the human side of us can sometimes make that challenging. Quite honestly, even I sometimes look at my current life circumstances and wonder if all this airy fairy stuff, as I like to say, is actually real. But then I really look at my life. I have lived in multiple countries around the world. I have traveled extensively, experienced miracles, and I really, truly am blessed. I also look at what other women have created, manifested, allowed, and experienced in their lives for inspiration. Most of the women I admire who have truly changed their lives were not handed anything. They weren't lucky. They simply had an unwavering belief that the life they wanted was going to happen. That doesn't mean they didn't have fear. It doesn't mean they didn't have doubts. And it certainly doesn't mean they didn't face obstacles like lack of money, time, or energy. Many of them were rejected countless times. People told them they were crazy for going after their dreams. Have you ever heard of Jamie Kern Lima? He is an incredible entrepreneur who was told by countless companies that her makeup line would never sell in stores. However, Jamie refused to quit. She literally put everything she had into that business. She eventually began selling her makeup on the shopping network. And just before she walked on stage, she was told yet again that she was going to fail because the so called experts didn't like the models she had chosen to showcase her product. Those models had skin issues just like Jamie did. And she felt that she wanted to reach the everyday woman who could benefit from her product. But again, the marketing experts told her she was crazy. Nobody wanted to see women like that. And yet, she went on stage anyway. By that time, she was terrified. But in time, she proved her product's worth. She ended up selling her makeup company to L'Oreal for $1.2 billion in cash. It became the largest acquisition L'Oreal had made in 8 years. Jamie also became the first female CEO of any L'Oreal brand in their 108-year history. I find that incredible. A makeup brand and their first female CEO. Now, what about Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx? She faced relentless rejection as well. Sarah built an entire company starting in the year 2000 with no outside investors because everyone she pitched her idea to, including manufacturers of pantyhose, thought she was crazy. However, she believed in her idea so strongly that she used her last remaining $5,000 to bring her product to life. Even lawyers refused to help her because they believed filing a patent would be a waste of money. So Sarah taught herself how to file that precious patent. That is courage. Today, we all know Spanx. For years, it has helped Hollywood look smooth and flawless on red carpets everywhere. Sarah kept full ownership of her company until 2021 when she entered a partnership deal worth $1.2 billion. Now, What I want you to notice about these women is not just their success. It's their ability to stay connected to something inside themselves that others could not see. They didn't let moments of rejection shake their beliefs, their determination, or their conviction that they could do and have more. That kind of belief takes time. It requires the ability to recognize when you're operating from fear and loving yourself enough to step out of that space of fear and limitation and back into your truth. These women didn't allow the opinions of others to define their belief in their products or in themselves. They weren't always overly confident either. In fact, they experienced a lot of fear. Jamie Kern Lima openly talks about how terrified she was that she might bankrupt herself and her husband. But she also knew something deep inside. She knew that if she didn't let fear keep her a prisoner, she could help other women. These women understood something powerful. Fear is often just a tactic trying to keep you from your next level of success. Now remember something. You are a creator of life, not just because of your body, but because of the energy you bring to anything you want to create. Your dreams live within you at all times, even when others can't see them, even when you can't fully explain them. You feel them. You feel the excitement. You feel the calling. You feel the joy connected to the truth of who you are. I remember the first time I truly said no to a label. If you've been following me for a while, you know I'm not afraid to share personal stories about my life. And my poor husband knows that I share these things too. So let me tell you about a very vital moment I decided to remember who I was rather than become someone new. Firstly, I want to say I am very happily married to a wonderful man. We've been married for over 20 years. Our marriage works because we allow each other to grow, change, and sometimes challenge each other. A few years ago, my husband and I were having an argument. And during that argument, he said something like, "You're being bitchy, controlling, angry." There were a few other not so nice words thrown in there too. But I took a deep breath and said, "I need a minute to think about this before I respond, because if I say something right now, it's not going to come out nicely." So I walked into my reading room where I work. I thought about what was happening and what Colin had just said. The person he described didn't feel like my truth. Normally, I might have come back and apologized, saying something like, "I'm sorry I was being bitchy or controlling. I'll do better next time." And just to be clear, I do get that way sometimes. And I'm absolutely willing to admit when I've done something wrong. But this time, I reflected more deeply. I said to myself, nope, I refuse to accept the version of myself that Colin is trying to paint. So I walked back out and I asked him, "Do you believe I am a loving, patient, kind, and fair person?" He said, "Yes." I replied, "Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Then I'm going to tell you right now that I refuse to accept the labels you are trying to put on me. Just because I get upset or angry doesn't mean I suddenly become this crazy, mean person." I told him that if something I said triggered him, then he needed to explore why. Then I walked away. That moment taught me something powerful. My truths are not always going to be shared by other people, and it is not my responsibility to convince them otherwise. I can share my truth. They can choose whether they believe it or not, but I am not going to waste my time or energy trying to change my beliefs to fit someone else's version of me. Now, the flip side of this is really important as well. Since introducing this awareness into my marriage, when my husband triggers me, it's now my responsibility to ask myself why. He doesn't need to tiptoe around me, and I don't get to label him unfairly either. This requires honesty and respect from both sides. Now, I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but I'm sure you'll recognize this too. For decades, women were raised on a catchy little line from the 90s. Maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline. It was actually a brilliant marketing spell. In just 10 words, it suggested that beauty was either something you were lucky enough to be born with or something you needed to buy in a tube. It quietly taught women that their best selves were always somewhere outside of them. But when you look at women like Jamie Kern Lima or Sarah Blakely, you see something very different. Their success didn't come from something that was added to them. It came from believing in what already existed within them. Women don't succeed because they were lucky enough to be born with it. They succeed because they trust themselves. I love the reminder that your worth, your success, and your belief in yourself cannot depend on outside validation. You must believe in your energy, your dreams, and your goals because there will absolutely always be people that don't understand them. They'd be friends, family, even potential clients. So, how do you quiet that noise? How do you remember who you truly are? You start by being open to your own truth. Connecting to your truth does not have to be complicated. It doesn't require endless therapy or becoming an entirely new version of yourself. Let me say this clearly. There is nothing wrong with who you are. I'll say it again. There is nothing wrong with who you are. You don't need the next new affirmation trend, self-help book, or spiritual gadget. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for growth and improvement. You cannot truly grow if you are not willing to honestly acknowledge where your beliefs are coming from. You cannot change what you refuse to see. This is where intuition comes in. When you are willing to be open and honest with yourself, your intuition will begin showing you whose voice you're actually hearing when you criticize yourself. When you think, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not good enough, your intuition will come and tell you where they came from. You were not born believing these things, these thoughts. You learned them, maybe from a teacher, maybe from media, maybe from a childhood moment that stayed with you and lingered. Start listening to your intuition because when you do, you can trace those beliefs back to their origin. Another important part of remembering your truth is this. When your intuition shows you something painful, please do not shame yourself for it. Sometimes I struggle with this too. I worry that I'm blaming the past or blaming certain people. But the truth is, our past experiences do influence our current beliefs. And when you approach these memories with compassion instead of judgment, something beautiful happens. You begin reconnecting to who you truly are. You can hold the younger version of yourself with love instead of criticism. You were not born into this world doubting yourself, silencing your voice, or even asking permission just to exist. You learned what safe was, what was expected, and what limitations the world placed on you. But the exciting part is that these things can actually be unlearned. Remembering who you are is not about building a new woman. It's about removing everything that convinced you that you weren't already her. I experienced another moment of remembering during a conversation with someone I love deeply. She is incredibly strong and loving, but she has also been through a lot in life. During our conversation, she said, well, depending on who you're around, you change who you are. You change how you say or react to things. I looked at her and said, no, I don't. It's who I am. If someone doesn't like me, that's their issue, not mine. She responded by saying that people do that to avoid upsetting others. I paused. I said something that actually even honestly surprised me. I replied, that makes me so sad because then no one knows who you really are. I told her that when people are at her funeral someday, they're all going to be sharing stories of different versions of her. And the world deserves to know the real person because she truly is worth knowing. I'm happy to say she has slowly started revealing more of her true self. And guess what? No one kicked her out of the friend group. In fact, they respect her even more. Remembering who you truly are also requires loving yourself. Many women do struggle with this. They believe loving themselves means they're arrogant or they don't believe they can improve somehow. That is simply ego talking. Loving yourself means accepting where you are on your journey while still allowing growth. One of the most important tools I have and I use for self discovery is journaling. Oh man, I cannot tell you how many holy shit moments have happened for me through journaling. Trust me when I tell you, I was incredibly resistant to journaling when I first started. But now I don't just sit randomly and start writing. I have a ritual. Rituals actually can signal to your subconscious and your soul that something meaningful is about to happen. So here is my spiritual journaling ritual that I'm going to share with you. I know that you will find it helpful as well. I get into some comfy clothes. I make either a cup of coffee or tea. I grab a journal that I love and my favorite pen. Listen, I truly believe that this is the secret to journaling. If you don't like your journal and you don't like your pen, you're not going to do it. But then I go into my quiet space. Sometimes I wear headphones and play soft meditation music. And I take a deep breath and say, I'm here, I'm open, I'm ready to learn. And then I just write. No timer, no expectations, just letting the pen move. At first, that blank page can feel absolutely terrifying and intimidating. But if you stick with it, incredible insights start appearing. Once you're done writing, go back and read what you wrote. Some of the realizations can be incredibly powerful. When you begin remembering your truth, something shifts. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop waiting for permission. You trust your instincts again. You stop over explaining yourself. You start making decisions that feel aligned instead of approved. And yes, sometimes remembering your truth will bring anger, and that's okay. Don't stay in blame. Feel it, acknowledge it, then celebrate the awareness. Because awareness means you are reconnecting to yourself. Sometimes another fear can appear too and come up. You can might feel I've wasted so many years of living with these limitations, but that voice is simply your ego trying to keep you in familiar territory. Instead, celebrate the fact that you are now seeing the truth. And another really powerful and simple practice you can do to really connect to your truth and remember who you are is called it's like mirror work. You stand in front of a mirror or hold a hand mirror in your face and look directly into your own eyes. Really look. Your soul is visible in your eyes. When I first started this practice, oh man, I really struggled some days. Sometimes I would cry. Sometimes I'd get really angry. Sometimes I would feel waves of shame. Sometimes I laughed. But over time, it became incredibly healing. I do want to add one thing is for the first little bit, looking in my eyes was really challenging. It was really hard. It was very uncomfortable. It took a lot of commitment and a desire to really get to know who I was before I could really look in my eyes. It really, really did become incredibly healing. Remember the shifts you experience when remembering your truth arrives quietly, but sometimes can hit you like a ton of bricks. With me saying that, don't shy away from it though, please. It can come with quiet. It really, it's hard to explain, but it does come with quietness and not with the fireworks or trumpets, but it still can feel like a holy crap. A deep inner knowing does come up though, that something inside of you has elevated, a stronger sense of alignment, a stronger sense of worth. At first, this new energy can feel very unfamiliar. But the more you reconnect with it, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, this elevated state of being just becomes your normal state. Remember this point as it is very important. As you grow and remember your truth, The people around you might not grow at the same pace. You may stop fitting certain labels, but you don't need labels or outside validation to be worthy. You are still loving, supportive, and dependable. You are simply no longer abandoning your truth. If remembering your truth ever feels uncomfortable or even a little wrong, that is your sign that you are on the right path. It's just old conditioning loosening its grip. And that's why it can feel, that's why it can feel uncomfortable and wrong. So that your conditioning is loosening up its grip that it has had on a hold on you for as long as you've potentially been alive. So let me ask you these few questions and, really think about them. I even encourage you to journal about them. Where in your life are you ignoring your knowing? What dream keeps returning to you? It could be a goal, it could be a desire. What part of yourself have you quieted to keep others comfortable? Your intuition never leaves you. It never disappears. It simply waits for you to listen. It is a massive beacon of love and light and a deep connection to the universe. Remembering who you are is not about becoming someone extraordinary. You already are. It's about reconnecting to the woman you were before the world told you who you should be. If you take one thing from this episode, let it be this. The woman you are trying to become already exists within you. Your intuition is simply guiding you back to her. That is why this podcast is called And She Remembers. Because the moment a woman remembers who she really is, everything changes. It is an awakening. It is an opening. It is a deep soul feeling of almost like you're floating. You truly feel like nothing is impossible and everything is before you. Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, let me know in the comments. Did one part really resonate with you? Did you feel something awaken? What exercises that I shared with you are you going to try? I'd love to hear about your experience. Join me next week when I share my own personal journey to becoming an oracle, including my awakening and the moments Spirit guided me.